Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of The Inside. I am Babla Jonathan. Today we are taking you back 36 years down memory lane into the fight for democracy, the fight for good governance, the fight for change, the fight for federalism by leading opposition political party in Cameroon, the Social Democratic Front. We are looking at how far the party has gone in the fight for change in the Republic of Cameroon, and we are also looking at the Social Democratic Front, SDF, of 1990. The party was launched on the 26th of May 1990 in Bamenda, and the Social Democratic Front of 2026, the Social Democratic Front that we have today, and we are looking at the future prospects. We are also taking you into the future plans of the Social Democratic Front. We are projecting into the future of the party. Stay with us and meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest today is Honorable O.C. Joshua, member of the National Assembly of Cameroon and national chairman of the Social Democratic Front. And with him, we had a conversation this week, beginning with the state of the nation. Let us begin by having your take on the state of the nation today.
We're in a worse situation today than we were on 26th of May 1990, because today we're in the middle of a civil war. We are insecurity all over the country. Our social cohesion has downgraded. Today, you cannot even let your kids go to school without assigning a policeman to each of them to make sure they come back. I mean, we're in a terrible situation, which simply means that we still have to work harder as an opposition party to change things around for this country. I think we've taken too many things for granted as Cameroonians for the past 36 years, and that makes it such that today Cameroonians I would say are suffering even more than what was going on in 1990.
You said we're in the middle of a civil war. Are you making a reference to the Anglophone crisis?
Well, if for you it's a crisis, for me it's a war. When people shoot at each other, it's a war.
Has it reached that level of a civil war?
It started as a civil war and it's still a civil war. When people decide to call for secession, and shoot on troops, shoot on the military, shoot on police, shoot on the gendarme, kidnap people and so on. It's some sort of a civil war. Yes, we should call things as they are. It is a civil war. We need to bring back peace. You don't bring back peace in a crisis. You bring back peace when there is war.
In the middle of all these, several people have been killed, properties destroyed. Violence still going on in those two regions as we speak now, is in a security situation that remains quite volatile. And the Social Democratic Front has also suffered a great deal in the middle of this crisis, with the national chairman, the first chairman of the party, late John Frundi, who was kidnapped, and the Social Democratic Front has also suffered pretty much in this crisis. Tell us more about that.
Thousands of people have been killed.
Yes, thousands of people have been
killed. They have been killed. It's not that they just died, they were killed. And you need to take cognizance of that. And that gives you need to frame the story the right way. So that is what is happening in the Northwest and the Southwest. And the Social Democratic Front has paid the highest price so far as a political entity, as a political party in those two regions. You have to understand that we not only did we pay a price towards or against the two belligerents, that is the secessionists and the central government in Yaoundé, but we also paid the price internally, because not everybody internally agreed on the position the party took to safeguard the unity of the country. So we're paying a very, very high price for having stood on the side of the unitary of the unity of our country. Sorry. And we've paid the price at each election. We've paid the price, as you said, many of our cards, and even, as you rightfully put it, our pioneer, our founding father, Chairman Nijon Fundi, was kidnapped. I am pretty convinced that actually the second time he got kidnapped, he came back ill and he finally died. So that second kidnap actually killed him. I have no doubt about that. And it is unfortunate that we had to pay that price. But I think we can be very, very proud of ourselves as a political party that we did not bow down to terror. We did not bow down to violence. We did not bow down to blackmails, and we did not bow down to the pressure coming from Yaoundé. And we stood our grounds and we stood straight. And I think we, as a matter of fact, for a second time in the history of Cameroon, saved this country. We saved it the first time when late Nijon Fundi won the presidential election in 1992 and clearly said that he doesn't want to govern this country on
corpses or the blood of the people.
And the second time when we stood for the unity of this country. If we did not stand for the unity of this country, if we would have given a political angle to the secessionist movement, I think this country would not be standing where it is today. So we should be praised for what we are doing. And I want to make this abundantly clear. We did not take a position against anybody. We took that position because we believe in the future of our nation. We believe in the future of our continent. And we believe that secession is not the right angle. But we further believe that the central government is not the solution, and that we should come to where we were in 1990, where we stood for what we stood for in 1990. That is, we want a federal dispensation. That's where we are.
And we're going to come to that.
And I hope that the price we've paid so far, we will kind of give a better attention to the position which has been ours for the past 36 years.
Some of those who died were not killed by a bullet. They were not caught in a crossfire, but they died because of the consequences of the violence. Some died while escaping. Some died as internally displaced people in other parts of the country. Some even died as refugees in neighboring Federal Republic of Nigeria. And in the midst of all these, the Social Democratic Front has stood its ground. I remember the chairman, Nijon Fundi, told me in one of the editions of The Inside that he was asked to withdraw the parliamentarians of the party from the parliament, from the Senate, from the National Assembly. But he refused. That decision, do you still hold on to that decision till today? I know you're still a parliamentarian.
Even more so than yesterday, because Nijon Fundi was right. The Social Democratic Front was right. We've been right. That's the paradox with the situation. We've been right from the very first day, and we're still right today. That's the problem. We don't want to be right. We want the country to be better. We want Cameroonians to have a better nation. That's what we're fighting for. And when we look at it from that angle, everything changes. It's because you try to look at it from a conflicting side that you may be asking yourself, should we go into parliament or not? We went in for elections and we are in parliament. Today, what has happened is that because of positions taken by secessionists, the Northwest and Southwest is filled up in parliament with people from the ruling party the same secessionists are fighting against. Is that not a paradox? Is that not a paradox that those who are closest to your ears, those who are closest to your cause, are those that you kick out of parliament for the sake of a cause that now gives an overwhelming majority to those you're fighting against? So actually, what has happened through political naivety is that the message you're sending out is that the centralized state, the Jacobinistic state in Yaoundé, is what you want, because you're kicking out those who have a federal discourse to send into parliament and into your councils, those who have a Jacobinistic discourse. So that's the whole paradox about the situation. But let me tell you, and I think it's the first time I'm mentioning this on TV, the reason why we were wanted out of parliament was not because there was any political agenda behind. It is because at a certain point in time, it was very difficult to portray the Yaoundé regime as a dictatorship which had a parliament and councils within which a steadfast opposition party was present. So, us being in parliament was not working in favor of those who were rather putting forth a fight against a dictatorship in Yaoundé. That was the issue. But we took a decision, and that decision was taken back in the 90s, when we decided, first of all, we didn't go for the first legislative multi-party election, and the second election in 1997, we went in 1996 to the councils and 1997 to parliament. And we've been steadfast. Mr. Babila, what the SDF has put on the table and succeeded to give to Cameroonians in the past 30 years that we've been in parliament is more than what any war could have brought. And we believe that that is the way to do political business. You need to be on the table, you need to discuss, you need to have the numbers, and we need to be understood as being a political party. We need to be understood as being an organization that carries an agenda, that carries a program, that tries to sell this vision to Cameroonians so that they can democratically choose how Cameroon will be tomorrow. Unfortunately, when we try to take shortcuts, what very often happens in politics is that we're just wasting time. And we've wasted a lot of time. We could have been there by now. You know, I'll take the example of the fight against apartheid. It took the ANC 8 years, as a matter of fact, 81 years to get to power. It took the ANC 81 years to deliver the African people in South Africa from oppression. It took them that time. But within those 81 years, they understood something at the end. That dialogue, discussion was 10 times more powerful than violence. Maybe violence was needed at one point. But when they succeeded was when they went and negotiated and got something out of it. So that is where the SDF stands. We understand that we can solve the problems put on the table. We can solve them through discussions. We can solve them by agreeing to disagree, but moving forward, giving concessions one to the other, and trying to find a way for us to be able to live together and move on. What we need is a strong nation. We do not need a divided nation. We need a stronger nation. We need a nation that will take care of our kids. We need a nation that will take care of ourselves. We need a nation that will be able to take us forward into the future. And that is not happening right now because we are quarreling on issues that don't need a violent quarrel. Those quarrels should be in parliament. Those quarrels should be in our municipal councils. That is where those debates, political debates, should be placed, and that's where they should be carried on.
And you've been fighting in parliament. The SDF has been pressing for the Anglophone problem to be put on the table, to be included in the agenda for as long as the crisis has been there. You've been fighting for that.
And even before, just don't forget that we were born on that premise. Right. So it's been 36 years that is on our agenda. People believe that The Anglophone crisis started in 2016. The violence started in 2017.
The crisis started in late 2016, but the Anglophone problem has been there.
You know, Mr. Babila, you're a journalist and you should be careful about your language. There is no Anglophone problem. Anglophones are not a problem.
You know, Minister Tanganji Paul said some years ago.
I do not compare to him. He's a minister.
He said there is no Anglophone problem.
There is. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Anglophones are not a problem. And if that is what he meant, then he's right.
So what do you mean by there's no Anglophone problem?
Babila, you are not a problem. That is what I mean. The problem or the issue is a situation that was put into place in 61 and solidified in 72 that needs to be readdressed. That is the issue. It's a question of a marriage between two. It's a question of a union. It is not a problem of one part of the union. That's not the problem. The two parts of the union have the problem. You cannot be two in a union and only one has a problem. So there is no Anglophone problem. There is a crisis today in the former Southern or West Cameroon, as you wish to call it. But the fact is that there is violence going on in the Northwest and Southwest that is uncalled for. That is the issue. And that's the issue that needs to be addressed and needs to be addressed with urgency, with tact, and with responsibility.
Do you have the impression that you have achieved anything in that struggle to have the problems in the Northwest and Southwest regions discussed in Parliament?
You cannot attribute a solution to a problem. You have the government of Cameroon creating a problem. You have groups of people who decide to solve that problem through violence. Okay? You cannot take a third party that is not part of government. We are an opposition party. We are an association. You cannot take that third party to try to hand it over the responsibility of the solution of a problem.
No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm asking about your efforts to include the problem.
I'll just beg you to give me the time to listen to me when you ask me a question.
Right.
My answers can be long or they can be short. I need to choose how long or how short they are.
Right. I'm talking about the problem. Honorable, let me put the question. I'm talking about the problem of the crisis or the war, however you may want to call it, in the Northwest and Southwest regions. Your effort as the SDF to have this problem included in the agenda in Parliament, discuss in Parliament. Have you achieved something in that perspective?
Mr. Babila, we need to agree within this interview, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. We need to agree on one thing. I'm not your student.
I didn't say so.
We are in an interview. You ask a question, I give an answer. So whether you like my answer or not doesn't permit you to reformulate the answer in such a way that you close it down to the answer that you want from me. You asked me a question about what we are doing in Parliament, and I'm giving you an answer building up to getting there. So
right.
For your listeners, for your viewers,
go ahead, please.
Have the patience necessary to allow me to say what I want to say.
Go ahead,
because
please.
If I needed to answer what you wanted, you should have given me all the answers. I'll be reading them.
No. That's not the matter. I'm not asking you to say what I want.
You know.
All right, you may go ahead, please.
We have one issue in Cameroon, and especially the two of us being from an English extraction, is that we sometimes put emotions above facts. We need to be factual. You are a journalist. You are a good journalist. We need to be factual. We need to remain in those facts. So let us not shift the...
Right, go ahead, please. You may answer the question.
Thank you for your permission to answer the question. So you are wanting to know what we've achieved in Parliament so far. That's why I was building up before. We did not fall from a parachute into Parliament. We got there in one way or the other. That's why I'm building up my answer. But anyway, you've cut me short and I'll come back. I'll go straight to the parliamentary part. We've done our part in Parliament. We've done a lot. I would like to tell you that every step taken in the direction of peace, of conflict resolution, every step taken in the direction of making our nation better is a step in the good direction. And we have taken many of those steps. So don't discount them. Don't discount the fact that we took up ourselves to attend the major national dialogue, we came out with not much. But we attended because we want to show good faith. We need to show good faith. We are obliged to be in the face of what is going on in Cameroon. You still need honest, ordinary, hardworking people. And that's what we are doing every day. And that's what we're doing in Parliament. Now, I was chairperson of the Bilingualism and Multiculturalism Committee in that thing. I brought back the work we did, and we put in place a law on bilingualism, the first ever law in bilingualism, which guarantees the same status for the English language and the French language. It is not much, but it is a step in the right direction. We brought, from the major national dialogue, we brought back to Parliament the 15% that was put into the finance bill for decentralization, that is, for our councils and our regions. That is a major achievement, Mr. Babila. Nobody else, to make a majority accept the position of a minority, although we are not yet at 15%, okay, we're still around 4 or 5%, but at least it's in the law. And that's an achievement because we legislate, we put the law in place, but we cannot enforce the law. That is the executive that does that. Now, we were, again, in the point, on the point on decentralization, which is far away from the federal state, which we want, but at least we work towards it. When the special status was brought up, it didn't fall from heaven. It was proposed, and it was proposed by the SDF to get closer to what we think the former West Cameroon regions, Northwest and Southwest, have been deprived of. And that is why we're working towards that direction. So you don't just get everything in one go. That's how politics is. You build up, you build bridges to get there. So you do not cross a huge river overnight. You build step by step and you're moving there. So we have achieved quite a lot. I'm proud of what we've been able to do in Parliament, not just for the Northwest and Southwest, not just for the resolution of the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest, but for Cameroon.
What do you tell those who feel disappointed that despite your efforts, and of course other opposition parties, but principally the Social Democratic Front, because you've been the one carrying this matter to the fore in Parliament, despite all your efforts, Parliament has not engaged a real conversation on this problem till now?
It is a very simple, I have a very simple answer for you. A very simple answer. The Parliament reflects the wish of the Cameroonian people. Now, we wanted to bring it on the table. We need the numbers. Okay? What did we get in return? Fewer numbers. Makes us weaker. So whenever we want to be on the table and to discuss, we have to have the numbers. It's as easy as that. And that is why each time you make sure that the SDF candidates cannot stand an election, you make sure that elections do not hold, you make sure that he who goes to Parliament comes from the CPDM, you cannot be disappointed from the uphill task the few of us who are in Parliament today undertake to make sure that that agenda even still exists. Because guess what? If we were not 5 of us in Parliament, that agenda would not even appear in the books of Parliament today. So that is it. So people are disappointed. They should be disappointed with those who make sure that the voices that matter for the Northwest and Southwest are absent in Parliament today. And what they can do, we are going towards election.
The voters, right?
Let them make sure that those who stand for their rights are present in Parliament. If you're not on the table, you end up in the menu. And that is actually what is happening politically to the Northwest and the Southwest.
You're talking about those who have the power to choose, the voters, the people, right?
Yes, of course.
And there are elections coming next year. You're hoping to have the people doing what you're saying now.
Mr. Babila, when I drive around Cameroon, and you know I go around a lot, and I get to a point where a bridge has collapsed, I get to a point where a woman is giving birth at the side of the road. I get all those things. And people complain. I tell them the way you change that in a democracy is to make sure that those who can stand for you are in front. Now, if you send those who have been oppressing you for 44 years to parliament, if you send the same people to parliament who brought the problem for you, you cannot wish to have a solution. We are a democratic party. We believe in change through dialogue, through discussions, through debates, and through a vote. We do not believe in change through the bullets. So if you want that change to happen that way, give us the numbers. We will have the numbers and we will not disappoint you. Because with the few numbers we've had so far, we've done quite a lot. And if we have the majority, we solve that problem the next morning, not one day later.
Now, I would love to ask you, what are you doing to convince them to do what you're saying? Because probably others seem to be convincing them more than you're doing, maybe with some few banknotes, some few bags of rice, some few sardine and bread and things like that.
The point is that as long as people prefer rice, sardines, and bread, and maybe a beer to their future, they should not complain. We live with it. You know, I say wherever I go through, I say I can do one thing. I can take a horse to the river. I can't force it to drink water. So we are saying we have an agenda that is known. It's not hidden. Our positions are known. Our track record is known. What we have done for this country in 36 years is known. Nothing is hidden under the sun. And so we are saying we even want to do more tomorrow. So what we're just expecting from people is, because we're already above trust, that trust already exists because they know us, they know our track record, they know what we've been doing, they know how we work, they know where we're going to, they know our agenda. Everything is known, our political program is known, nothing is hidden. So when you choose to empower the oppressor, then either you're suffering from a Stockholm syndrome or you like to remain in suffering. That's all I can say. So we can put everything on the table. We cannot force the people, and we will never pay the people to go and vote. We will never, because we believe that what we're putting on the table is an honest offer. It's an honest political offer to move forward. Not for us, for our children.
Right, Honorable, I want us to take a look at what the newspapers reported this week, and we'll be right back to talk about the distance that the Social Democratic Front has covered so far for the past 36 years in its fight for democracy, good governance, change, and, of course, a return to federalism in Cameroon. Stay with us. This is the press review. Daily Voice tells the story of the birth of the Social Democratic Front on May 26, 1990. The Guardian Post, support for Ambassador Fozong's funeral. Bia, please play the big boy. The paper tells its readers that critics say, like the head of state, not only pardoned the 1984 coup plotters who were also out for his life, and even went an extra mile to entrust key ministerial positions to some of them. He should rise above pettiness and bankroll the funeral of the former SCNC leader and career diplomat who served the country loyally for decades. The Municipal Update reports that the Public Independent Conciliator for the Southwest region has urged councils of the region to improve service to the public. The Voice at 10, Mbengui crisis, Fund rejects fake new village, cites 8% land theft and total disregard for ancestral customs. Cameroon Tribune highlights hopes for better days with regards to the Mora Dabanga Kuseri Road in the far north region of Cameroon. According to the paper, the launching of reconstruction works on that stretch of road is a good news to the population, as it will enhance trade between Cameroon and Chad. Now, coming up in this edition of The Insight, we're looking at how far the Social Democratic Front, SDF political party, has gone in its fight for democracy, good governance, change, and federalism in Cameroon. When you look at the Social Democratic Front today and the Social Democratic Front of 1990, do you still see that leading opposition party? I call it leading opposition party because I'm looking at numbers, for example, representation in institutions at the level of the National Assembly, the Senate, the councils, and even national presence on the national triangle. But that is disputed by many who are looking at, for example, the result of the last two presidential elections and the performance of the SDF that was not very good, so to speak, and the fact that there are some figures that have fallen off in terms of representation at the National Assembly and even at the Senate. Your numbers have dwindled. And so do you still see that leading opposition party that came with a lot of power?
Your point doesn't reflect the right picture.
So what's the right picture?
I'll come back to your point as it was supposed to be to tell you that 1990 and 2026 are two different contexts. They're completely different. And just as you mentioned it, in 1992, Mr. Biya lost the presidential election as well. He's still in power. So it is not because he lost that election in 1992 that he lost power thereafter. He's still there till today. So we're in politics. So that's not the way you measure political presence. That's not the way you measure political consistency. That's not all the way you do it. And we need to understand that. And the problem I have with lots of people, especially people who ask questions just as you did, is that you seem to discount, you suffer the effects of an autocracy, but you discount the fact that you're living in one.
What's the meaning of that?
You pretend that you are living in a democracy, Western style democracy, where figures are absolute, but you very well understand that that's not the way it works.
Well, I don't pretend. I know the facts.
When you ask the question, is that you are pretending, you are even convinced. And that's even worse than pretending. I was trying to be nice to you, saying and pretending, but it's even worse because you're convinced, because you're using facts that are biased. That is, you using them as if...
What is bias? The fact that your numbers have dwindled in Parliament, your numbers have dwindled at the Senate, your numbers have dwindled at the level of municipal councils.
I'm in an interview with you, I'm not in a debate.
That's what I'm asking you now.
You'll be a parliamentarian, I'll be able to be in a debate with you. Right now, we're in an interview.
We want to understand what has dwindled, what is...
Your viewers have understood, but I'll repeat it for you.
Yes.
The point is, you cannot take results that are put on the table by what you very well understand as being a dictatorship or an autocracy, because not every autocracy is a dictatorship, but every dictatorship is an autocracy. So I just use the word dictatorship to make you understand, since you had difficulties understanding.
I don't have difficulties understanding anything. Go ahead, please.
Well, I believe that you were pretending to have difficulties to understand so that you get me talking.
That's an impression.
So, yes. So I am just informing you that results being brought about by an autocracy are not results that you can count on. Okay? So they don't give you the political weight of a political party because the playing field is not level. Okay? When you make it such that when you do everything possible for elections not to hold in 40% of the electorate, of the national electorate, in two regions of Cameroon, highly populated regions of Cameroon, okay? And you talk about the problem in those two regions for the first part of an interview, and for the second part, you pretend that that problem doesn't exist because you can use the figures that came out of in your home council. I think less than 800 people voted, whereas You boast around the world saying you're one of the biggest councils in the Northwest. So I understand.
Well, those who are boasting are boasting. I'm not boasting anyway.
I understand that I cannot take the number of voters who voted in Bali to reflect the population of Bali or the population that Bali is supposed to have.
The population of voters.
The population,
those who are of voting age.
The voters are a percentage of the population. So if you have a city of 4 million inhabitants, you can have more voters in that city than in a city of 2 million inhabitants. But what I'm saying is that when today you look at the figures and you see where the figures come from, you know there is a problem. You know there is a problem because the election was not on a level playing field. So I don't want to overemphasize on the issue. What I need to emphasize on, which is much more important, is that you should not mislead your viewers with figures that do not reflect the reality. Because
but the figures are there.
The number one rule, well, every figure is there, okay? And every figure can tell one story or another. And the figures were not put on the table by the SDF or Joshua Osi. They were put on the table by
the competent institutions.
Put in place by
the state of Cameroon.
The autocracy. So that is my point. And so you need to understand.
So in a nutshell, what you're saying is that whatever figures are presented, result of the last presidential elections, even the municipal and legislative elections of the past municipal and legislative elections, and so on, the numbers at the Senate, at the National Assembly, at the councils do not reflect the reality. I get that. Now let's proceed to this.
That is not exactly what I was saying. That's part of the story. What I'm saying is that you need to do your homework to understand what political parties are doing on the field, what they're presenting, where they're going to, because that's an important part of the picture. The picture given by the...
That's why I talked about national representation.
That's not the point.
Being present around and carrying out activities.
I don't recall having seen you at any one of our activities in the last 10 years.
No, I'm talking about the presence of the SDF everywhere around the country.
I don't know whether we're present enough if you don't come and see us.
But I know where you are. I don't need to go everywhere. I know where you are. I know where you went. I know the areas that you have visited. I know how many times you have gone around the country. I know all those things.
Mr. Babida, that is the problem. That is the problem with many of us. You believe that you know. And that is a very, very harmful way of informing the people. What I'm telling you, it
cannot be harmful.
What I'm telling
you have not been everywhere around the world, but you know some things in some places where you have never been.
Mr. Babila, it's not a debate.
Do we agree?
No, we cannot agree.
No, because you have not been everywhere around the world, but you know some things in some places where you have never been.
That's not what has that got to do with the question you asked in the first place.
Mr. Chairman,
let me point this. No, you don't have the right to change an interview into a debate. And in that debate, you obnoxiously stop me from talking or giving my answers, whereas you ask me a question, which you have the right to ask any question. But you need to understand that as a journalist, you have the obligation to accept my answer. You can ask me whether the day is bright or dark, and I can say the day is blue or red.
And that's your choice. That's your right.
So let me come back to your answer to your question, because it's an important question, and I was trying to give an answer, and you kept...
Okay, please go ahead, Mr. Chairman. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
You used to be a good friend. I don't know what happened. But anyway.
No, I'm still a good friend, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that.
Please, you may go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that you cannot take figures that do not reflect the reality of the field and try to portray the result as being what you have. Just as for the 2025 election, I would say 50% of Cameroonians would say that the figures given at the election were right, and 50% will say that they're wrong. But you cannot have just one figure that is wrong. When it's wrong, it is all the figures. And when it is right, it is all the figures. So that is why I'm telling you that we have biased figures coming out. We take stock of them and we move on. We are not close by them. We understand that in your native Bali, nobody came out to vote because they were afraid. And it's something we understand and we move on. We are not in politics for one election. We're in politics to change this country. And that is what is important. And that's what you need to understand, that one election will not deter our resilience, will not deter our determination to change this country. And that is the most important thing you have to take on from your question.
All right, Mr. Chairman, how far have you gone with the fight for democracy, the fight for change in this country, the fight for a federal system to be restored? Because we were in a federal system before. It was dissolved on the 20th of May 1972 with a referendum that transitioned the country from a federal state to a unitary state.
We've gone a long way. We've gone a long way, a very long way. And we've achieved a lot. And as a matter of fact, in and above what we've achieved, I think we've set the ball rolling to take us to where we were supposed to be along already. But we were stopped from getting there because probably the regime used each and every means at its disposal to stop that happening. But we've gone a long way. Let me take 1, 2, or 3 examples. The first is you. You, Mr. Dabida. You're sitting there with a beautiful coat and tie because you have a job. And you have a job because people died. Members of the SDF gave their life for you to have that job. Because guess what? Before Nijon Fundi had the courage to ask for the freedom of the Cameroonian people, there was nothing like a private television. There was nothing like that. And we moved forward. Your company was one of those that defended the freedom of speech in Cameroon. And we stood by you. And when you were closed down in 2009, some of us were locked up. We were being sprayed with tear gas. They broke down a hotel in which we had a meeting to open up your TV station again. So we've gone a long way. You have to understand that some journeys are long, some journeys are short. Some achievements are visible, some are intangible. But one thing that is constant is that we've always stood on the side of the Cameroonian people. And so when you produce a product of our fight, of people we have buried, ask me what we have done. You should be coming and telling me we've done a lot, but we need more. And I agree with you. We need to do more. We need to work harder. We need to go deeper. We need to educate more. We need to do all of that. But that shouldn't discount the price we've paid so far and what we've done so far.
How do you reconcile that with the present state of the country today, which is characterized by many analysts, national, even international civil society organizations, as a country that has moved backward over the years in terms of democracy, in terms of human rights, in terms of the well-being of the people?
That was my opening statement when we started this interview. I said we've gone backwards, we've regressed, as a country, of course, we have. And it means we even need to work more. But again, let me repeat this over and over. I can take the horse to the river, I can't force it to drink. So that's we are a political party. We offer a direction, we offer a vision, we offer candidates, we offer a future. And the population, the population has to register to vote, and the voters have to cast their vote to take it into a certain direction. That's the way it works. So we believe that probably we didn't do enough. We also believe that probably the regime is using all the means of the state to block us from doing more. We also believe that today, due to the arrival of social media and the digital sphere and everything has become faster and people want quick changes. There is one thing I need to tell you. There is nothing like a quick change in politics. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. And so we need to understand that what if we want a future, we need to build it. We cannot go and buy it in a shop and put it here. We need to build it, and we need to build it together. And that's the fight the SDF has been having for 30 years. That's the most important fight we've been having, to tell Cameroonians that peace is built. Peace is built on justice. Justice is built. Prosperity is built. Development is built. Democracy is built. And building takes time. You don't just do it overnight.
Several years down memory lane, Mr. Chairman, we could perceive a very strong momentum around the Social Democratic Front. People manifesting some kind of love that made the Social Democratic Front look like a religion. I remember some years when we were younger in the west region of the country, we could see grandmothers, even those who could not walk, struggling to come out just to have a glimpse of the chairman, just to have a glimpse of the party, the momentum, and so on. A lot of people mobilizing, the young, the old, children, and everybody. Do you still have that today? Do you think the people still believe and trust the Social Democratic Front today in the same way?
Those are two different questions you just asked. The momentum had nothing to do with trust. So you're asking two completely different questions again. Lisa.
The people came out because some of them coming out can be by curiosity. Yes, and many of them who spoke. The two questions. Let me come. Many of them who spoke said that they believe, they trust that this is the way. This is the party that will set us free, and that is why they were mobilizing and coming. Of course, there were others who were curious. There were others who were just carried away by the momentum and so on.
Well, you see, you asked your question already, so now you have asked a third question. But anyway, let me answer your first two questions, and maybe the third one would be another option. And we need to understand that the early 90s was a completely different context from today. We need to understand that what happened in 1990 is that the SDF brought political freedom to Cameroon. We did something no other organization did before us, at least not after 1972. And so people were curious. And the thing you have to understand is that people were not different from what they are today. That is, many believed that we're bringing a quick fix. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way because we didn't want a bloodbath, because we were blessed to have a leader, the late national chairman of our party, John Fundi, who did not want to walk on the blood of Cameroonians to go to Italy. Otherwise, we'll not be talking of 30 million Cameroonians today. Probably we will be talking about 10 million Cameroonians today. So we did not take that path. Don't forget that that path was taken by many other African countries at that time. So because people are in a hurry to have a better life, it is important to understand that there is a difference between expectations and trust. They're two different things. So the expectations in 1990 were immediate. Let me tell you that a good part of the members of the SDF in 1990 strongly believed, and they were right to do so, that they will be in government in 1992. And so when 1992 didn't happen, many believed that they will be in government in 1997. And that's why we had an internal crisis about going into parliament or not. Because those who didn't make it to parliament didn't want the others who made it to go to parliament. It's human nature. That's the way it works. So many citizens had a strong hope that the SDF would be in power within 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. Unfortunately, the repression of the regime was such that it just didn't work. And now you can see with other political parties coming up thereafter, proposing with a lot of momentum the fact that they will be in power in 6 months, in 1 year, in 2 years. And when that too doesn't work, it fades down. But what is important in the political party is not the type of momentum that you get rolling. It is the consistency of your position. And we have been consistent since 1990 on the side of the people for social justice, for equal opportunities, for federalism. That's our position. We haven't changed 1 centimeter away from it. And I think that is how you build trust. And that's why I said you should dissociate the two. We are on that line. We failed to take over power in 1992. We failed to have a majority in 1997. Others came thereafter saying they will do it better than us. Okay? Well, you said it yourself. Cameroonians are worse off today than they were back then. So what should happen tomorrow? Let us come back to the political organization that is consistent, that is true to itself, and that stands on the side of the people to deliver the goods. That is the message I have for you. That is the message I have for your viewers. To tell them that 1990 was 1990, 2026 is 2026, and what was in between then was in between. So you cannot compare. In 1990, you had no social media. You barely had television screens. Okay, so to understand what was going on, to get the message of the SDF, you needed to do the effort to go to the rally. In 2026, your grandmother in the village can get what I say or what Mr. Bia says or anybody else through a phone. So it doesn't push her out of her house to go to a rally to listen. When she really comes to that rally or when she meets with us, it's to have a one-on-one experience, which is different from the huge rallies we used to have back then. So I'm not discounting what we had then. I'm not saying it is not appropriate to have rallies today. It is appropriate to have them, but circumstances have changed. And the way we look at things, and even the voters have changed. Maybe you don't really seem to take into consideration the fact that many of the voters today were not even born in 1992. I mean, their relationship to 1992 is like my relationship to the Second World War. So it's a thing that happened when I was not there. So whatever happened is for them. So that is why I'm trying to tell you that we have different electorates. We have young people, the Generation Z that nowadays that is looking at the world completely differently from what the people who stood by us in 1990 looked at the world, how they looked at the world at that time. We need to take cognizance of that. We need to understand that the problems of a young Cameroonian farmer today are not the problems of a young Cameroonian farmer in 1990. That the problems of transportation that we have today are not the problems we used to have in 1990. That the problems of purchasing power we have today are not the same as we used to have in those days. And that overall the political problems that we have coming from the fact that our national unity is barely existent and that national cohesion is completely inexistent, makes it such that people have less and less trust in political organizations today than they used to have in those days. Because in those days, those political organizations were imposed on them. Today, they have a choice. And it's the same thing all over. In 1990, you had 4 churches in Cameroon. Today, you have 1 million. Okay? That's how it goes. In 1990, we used to know that you have one Muslim bloc. Today, you have various blocks. Okay? And in 1990, we had barely 20 big football teams we could count on. Today we have hundreds and hundreds. In 1990, you had 3-4 newspapers you could count on. Today, you have, the last time I counted, there were 7,000. Okay. The same thing for TV stations. We had 2 TV stations. Today, you have about 700. So everything has changed. So you have to understand that we too need to change. We too need to adapt to that. And probably for a very long period, we probably wanted the world to adapt to us. But we understood back in 2011 that we need to adapt to the world. We didn't get there as fast as we were supposed to, but I can tell you that we're working every day to get there. And we are currently doing everything possible to update ourselves to the context of today, digitally and otherwise, and to make sure that we are present at the summit during the upcoming legislative and municipal elections, to be able to deliver a message to each corner of Cameroon, to make sure that the Cameroonian people understand what we stand for, where we want to take this nation to, and hopefully that they come with us, they vote for us to take the nation towards a better future.
You'll tell us a little more about that shortly. But first of all, Mr. Chairman, what can you say to convince those who think today that the Social Democratic Front has failed them, has failed the nation, that the Social Democratic Front is dying? I've heard people saying that in the streets. What can you say to convince them that the Social Democratic Front that we have today is still standing tall on its principles, on its vision of the nation, on the fight for democracy, on the fight for change in this country?
Well, first of all, the simple fact that you're coming to me today to give me 1 hour of your time on an interview means that we are relevant. Otherwise, you will not be sitting here with me. Secondly, let me go deeper into your question. We are not in power. We have never been in power. We have defended the Cameroonian people as much as we could from a point, and we still do so as much as we can, from a point of opposition, not a point of power. We've never been in power. We've never even agreed or chosen to share power. That's where we stand. So we cannot disappoint you if we do not govern. We can only disappoint you if we govern. But we are not governing. And we've made sure that our positions are as coherent as possible, and that we stay steadfast to our vision. We have always done that. Up to today, we've never changed. There's no one instance where you can come in front of me, Mr. Babla, and say, in 1990 you said this, today you're saying that. Not one.
But Mr. Chairman, you know that there are many Cameroonians, like you said earlier, who believed that the Social Democratic Front is going to save us from what you call autocratic leadership.
The point is that if we haven't saved Cameroonians of the autocratic leadership, it doesn't take the SDF to do that. It takes the voters. It doesn't. The SDF proposes. The SDF puts an agenda on the table. The SDF declines a vision. The SDF has a program, has a plan, and the voters decide. Okay? So when the voters decide otherwise, and they complain thereafter, if you do not vote, or if you vote for your oppressor, you have no right to complain. Absolutely no right. Those who have a right to complain are those who come out with us and vote for us, and the numbers are not enough. And when they complain, we sit back, as we will do on the 13th of June, we sit again and say, okay, why were the numbers not up to what we expected? What do we need to do to get the better numbers? That's our job. But you cannot complain. You cannot give a job to somebody else. You cannot ask a carpenter to build your bed. And when your bed collapses at night, you go and hold the other carpenter opposite responsible for what his neighbor did. No. So if your bed collapses once, twice, thrice, change your carpenter. That's what we're asking for. And once we will come and we build the bed and it collapses, hold me responsible for it. But you cannot let me out of the game and want me to score the goals. Those who decide who is on the field, those who decide who is scoring the goals, those who decide which carpenter is going to build the bed,